Featuring extensively in Resident Evil 5, the Uroboros Virus wreaked a whole lot of havoc as a lethal bioweapon. Created by none other than Albert Wesker, this virus was the result of the manipulation of the Progenitor Virus, but was even more lethal after it was fused with some other virus strains. It also made an appearance in Resident Evil Revelations 2, where it was revealed that this virus was created with the intention of creating a superior race of human beings. Today, we shall explore this bioweapon of supposed evolution in great detail, and tell you everything there is to know about it. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin.
Wesker!
What is the Uroboros virus and who created it? Albert Wesker is famously known as a eugenic terrorist and researcher, and he's often been affiliated with Umbrella Inc. Around 2006, Umbrella Pharmaceuticals started working on the Uroboros project and Oswell E. Spencer, and Earl Spencer then confided in Albert Wesker about their intentions to create a whole new race. They labeled this race the Ubermensch, and hoped to create an evolved human society with some help from Wesker. In the aftermath of the War on Terror, Wesker thought that humanity was the root cause of all the trouble, and he soon started working with the Progenitor Virus to bring this project to fruition. By using this virus against humanity, Wesker hoped to wipe out every single human except those with advanced genetic characteristics, who would lay the foundation for their utopian society. However, things didn't move as smoothly as they had expected, especially after Wesker's partner had set up their base in the old Nidipaya kingdom. The population that survived the initial virus experiments was just too small, and Wesker then proceeded to extract T-virus antibodies from one of his mutant subjects, named Jill Valentine. He then used these antibodies on his Uroboros cultures to narrow down the strains that were less potent than the Progenitor Virus. After making some headway with these strains, Wesker proceeded to infect about 1,000 subjects over the course of 2 years, with some help from Tricell and Miguel. By May 2008, they had managed to finalize the virus strain and loaded many of the virus samples on missiles as part of the Uroboros project. By firing these missiles into the Earth's atmosphere, they hoped to infect the entire world. But all their effort went down the drain when they accidentally created a mutant arthropod species called the Reaper during their preparation. Soon enough, they redid the whole process, and it took them another year to be confident about the Uroboros project. Why does the Uroboros virus infect and mutate hosts? From a biological point of view, the Uroboros virus turns its hosts into anomalous masses of biomatter with tubular bodies. The Uroboros often branched out from these tubes to expand their territory and latch onto other organisms as soon as they got into contact with them. Uroboros aheri had once demonstrated the ability to grow to large sizes in order to reach other organisms, and these creatures typically had one singular organ that helped them attack and mutate hosts. In its original state, Uroboros could not latch onto human life, and it had to be fused with T-virus antibodies to infect humans without killing them. As soon as the virus came into contact with the host cells, it would insert its genes into the host genome in order to blend with it. Hosts with a compatible genetic sequence soon gained superhuman abilities as a result of this merger, while incompatible beings suffered greatly as the Uroboros took control of their bodies. The virus would then distribute the infected tissues into tentacles and branch out to infect any other organic matter within reach. No compatible host had survived long enough for them to be able to study the full effects of the virus, so they still didn't know much about the side effects of the T-virus antibodies. The most they could conclude is that the virus aims to force evolution by weeding out incompatible DNA and merging with compatible genomes to breed a new race of humans. While it can be argued that Albert Wesker was infected for a long time, he might not be the best case study for the virus, as he had overdosed on PG67AW. It's quite likely that his symptoms were not the same as those of other compatible hosts, and they were only specific to him. Some have also theorized that the Uroboros-infected cells can gain sentience and superpower over time, an ability that was displayed when Wesker generated electricity from metal, gained regeneration powers, and increased resistance and strength after being infected. What happens to incompatible hosts? During Wesker's initial operations, he had managed to infect 3 other humans beside himself before the BSAA intervened and put a stop to it. While Wesker managed to mutate correctly, the rest of the 3 beings were deemed genetically incompatible. When the Uroboros virus merges with incompatible beings, it triggers a sequence where it spreads the virus across to any other organic being in its path by branching out from within the body. This process takes place with the help of pustules that branch out from the host body in search of a more compatible source of nutrition. mutation. As a result, the host body is entirely distorted and eventually torn apart as a result of uncontrollable mutation, while the virus continues to feed on living and dead biomatter and exponentially increase in size. Sometimes the virus merged with other Uroboros masses or incompatible hosts in a desperate attempt to ensure its growth. In one such instance, an Uroboros creature managed to absorb way too many corpses in order to turn into a tree-like entity called Uroboros aheri. After being infected by Wesker, Excelligione turned into an aheri, which is also Swahili for better or superior. In this form, Uroboros aheri was capable of covering the entire surface of the Earth in order to bring about total destruction, which was also known as the final stage in the life of this virus. Some beings were not entirely compatible with the Uroboros, but had partially adaptable genes that transformed them into an Uroboros human. One such example was Uroboros Mkono, who had several cores and one singular limb that could strike down any opponent from a distance. However, Chris and Shiva eventually managed to defeat it, and the Uroboros human did not pose that much of a threat as compared to the other virus-ridden creatures. While the Uroboros virus was not an extremely intelligent one, it did know how to survive by digging its claws or tentacles deep into other life. It was connected to a yellow cyst-like core, which acted as a brain and was also their only source of weakness. In order to kill the Uroboros, one had to tear their way through the ever-expanding pustules that protruded through the host body to locate and destroy one. What powers do compatible hosts gain? After the Uroboros virus entered the host body, it established a bright orange core organ that soon grew a bunch of viral pustules. These tentacle-like pustules then started feeding on the host tissues and weakened them on the inside in the same manner that a snake would feed on its own tail. Some hosts, such as Albert or Nidipaya, had great control over their bodies, and they managed to metabolize these pustules and prevent them from taking over their physique. After the virus was entirely absorbed into one's body, the host transformed into a super being, much like the progenitor humans, and gained all sorts of abilities such as superhuman strength, speed, and even regenerative abilities. The virus also helped them de-accelerate their aging process, effectively attaining immortal status, and gain total control over the pustules. Notable victims of the Uroboros virus. For starters, Albert Wesker was notably one of the first people to be infected with the Uroboros virus, but he did not undergo a complete transformation. Only his upper body had mutated after being exposed to the virus, and he was notably known as one of the few people who exerted control over it. Also known as Uroboros Wesker, Albert fought against Chris and Shiva in this form, and he was eventually killed off with the help of 2 rocket launchers. Another one of the virus's victims was Miguel, a Tricell employee who had worked on the creation of several bioorganic weapons. He worked at the Uroboros laboratory in Africa when he tried to infect the T-virus with the Progenitor Virus, and he was soon killed off by Tricell and Albert to prevent any security leaks. Among other people, Albert Wesker had also infected Excelligione with the Uroboros virus, but her body rejected it, and she then transformed into Uroboros aheri. In this form, she fought against Chris and Shiva, who eventually destroyed her with the help of a target locator. Over time, Alex Wesker infected himself with the Uroboros virus, and she was notably one of the few people who had exerted control over this form. She introduced herself as Monster Alex, and even infected Neil Fisher at one point, who then transformed into Uroboros Tyrant. Over time, Claire killed Alex by targeting her with a rocket launcher, and then teamed up with Moira to kill Neil as well. How was the Uroboros virus defeated? When Wesker's team had finally prepared for the virus's launch, the Bioterrorism Security Assessment Alliance, or the BSAA, intervened and put a stop to their mission before they spread it all over the world. Wesker ended up getting infected by the Uroboros virus during his face-off, alongside 3 more human veins, but he was the only one who managed to mutate properly. After his death, Alex Wesker infected herself with the Uroboros virus and even researched it extensively on Sane Island. Her experiments also led to the creation of the Revenant, and she eventually joined hands with Neil Fisher in 2011 to get her hands on more test subjects in exchange for some Uroboros. While Fisher was hopeful about these outcomes, he was infected during the deal, and Alex took it upon himself to punish him for betraying his friends. She then proceeds to release the Revenants, and it was not long before she mutated as a result of the T-Phobos and Uroboros infection. As the year passed, these Revenants destroyed every single thing in close vicinity, and the entire Sane Island transformed into a wasteland, littered with dead subjects and wild animals. Eventually, the BSAA took it upon themselves to clear out the island, while Barry Burton, Moira Burton, and Claire Redfield came together to confront Alex, and also destroy her mutated physique. While she tried to put up a good fight and even consume copious amounts of Uroboros to boost her size, she was soon overpowered by Claire, who fired an RPG into her heart, and killed her once and for all. With Alex's death, all dreams of infecting the world with the Uroboros virus came to an end, and the BSAA successfully wiped out all their attempts at spreading the virus around the world. Marvelous verdict, and with that, we've explored the Uroboros virus as well as the effort that went behind its creation. The virus certainly had a long-lasting impact on its victims, and one can only imagine the kind of mass destruction they would have faced if the BSAA had not stepped in to save the day in time. While Wesker had been credited with creating all kinds of strange weapons, this virus remains to be one of his most deathly inventions. We hope you enjoyed exploring it with us, and we'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks, everyone.